just gone over the half past, so should we get started?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining our second Cloud User Management Group meetup here. You're welcome. It's great to see we've had a good deal of interest for this, so you know, hopefully that will stand good going forward. We've got some great speakers and talks going on today. But David Segura, you can see in on the video there. We've got Shabaz Darr joining us a little bit later. So David's going to be going through the OSD cloud and what he's done there. Some really interesting stuff. And we've also got Shabaz who's going to do an intro on WVD, or Windows Virtual Desktop. We've just to kind of say this is for you guys. This is a community thing. It's not about us. So you know, please it's an interactive session. So please post your questions. If just a few housekeeping rules around that, if I could, maybe if you could go on mute during the presentations and talks, that would be good. And raise your hand if you've got a comment or question you wanna ask, and also use the chat window there as well. So either Simon or Dan on the call here will pick those up, and hopefully we can get through them all. So after the presentations or talks, we do have a quiz with some prize money. So you know, hopefully you want to hang around to the end and get involved with that. You know, it's only a few questions actually, but we're going to tie that in with a little bit of feedback. So you know, we want to improve here as well. So you know, anything you can give us in terms of feedback. And lastly, I just want to say we're always on the lookout for a little bit of sponsorship to kind of help us run these calls and meetups. So if anyone has any ideas and wants to help out, please get in contact with us and share the information. That would be great. Okay, with that, we'll kick off with David. I'll hand it over to you, David, to go through OSDCloud.
Hey, thanks a lot, Andy. Hi, everyone. I don't have a slide deck, so you're going to have to put up with me on webcam, but I figure what I wanted to do was spend most of my time outside of slides and more in real world. And so let me share my screen, and we're just going to kick off from there. So, hi everyone. I'm David Segura. I'm a dude on Twitter. Segura OSD is my handle. I also manage and run a website called OS Deploy, which hopefully you guys can remember. But anything I post, I typically put out there, and of course I manage a few subdomains related to OSD stuff. OSDCloud is what you're here for, and you can get to that by just going to OSDCloud.com, or and you'll be redirected to OSDCloud.osdeploy.com. So without any further introduction, let's just jump right into it. So OSDCloud is part of an OSD PowerShell module that is used to image a computer straight from the cloud without any infrastructure. And we use it internally in our enterprise. We can use it to prep machines for autopilot. It also provides a quick way to test new hardware with drivers without having to set up driver packages. And basically, you don't need anything other than WinPE. And if you've taken the time to create a WinPE boot image, you can boot any Dell, Lenovo, HP, device. And in this particular example, I'm going to be showing you a video of Latitude 5410. And on this particular box, this is going to be a demonstration of OSDCloud Wireless. And what that is by using, instead of the standard ADK WinPE, I've taken the Windows recovery environment and then added some wireless drivers and had some help from some friends in developing some scripting in order to enable wireless support. So this recording, what we're seeing here, WinPE has started up. And I'm going to pause it right here. This is one of the benefits of having a recording. We can see in the background, we can see StartNet has kicked off a PowerShell window. And in this PowerShell window is actually minimized at the bottom. And that's empty. That's mostly there so you can run any commands in there without interfering with an OSDCloud deployment. And I've paused it right here because this is a secondary PowerShell window, which is starting wireless. It's checking for an internet connection. Obviously, if you're connected with Ethernet, you're going to see this. It's going to pass on a web connection to Google, and then it's going to exit out of wireless. But if you don't have an Ethernet connection and you do happen to have all your wireless bits, you're going to see something like this, where it's going to start your wireless service and it's going to detect your wireless hardware and then give you a list of wireless access points. I hope all of these are kind of safe, no bad words in here, but this is from my house, my home Wi-Fi. Obviously, they're sorted by signal strength, and we can see mine is up on top. Segura is the SSID. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the index, and I'm prompted to enter the index of the Wi-Fi network to connect to. And in my case, I'm going to enter the index of 636. Maximize that window there so you can see everything. And then after selecting 636, I'm going to be prompted for my credentials for my SSID. And then this should go through and give me a wireless connection. So this is something that you can enable in OSDCloud when you're building your WinPE. And I can go back and show how to enable the wireless. Although all of that documentation is online. But I wanted you to all see how easy it is to simply do this from a wireless connection. You don't need Ethernet as long as you've got an Intel wireless adapter. If you have anything else, you'll have to add some drivers. And once the wireless connection is made, another PowerShell window opens up, and this is where I would start OSDCloud. And I believe here I'm doing this parameterless. With OSDCloud, you can set parameters for your Windows build. 21H1 is in there. This is not the official release. This is the insider. And let me pause this real quick and go back. And you'll see once you select the build, you're going to have to select an edition. For me, I typically select Enterprise and Work. You can also select Pro. Then you can upgrade your key to an Enterprise. But obviously, if Home is included, you can certainly reimage machines at home using this method. And the language selection, typically I would choose ENUS. When I had first released OSDCloud, all of these were kind of defaulted, but that really wasn't fair for my friends across the pond. If they weren't aware, they were getting English US. And so I had modified Start OSDCloud to default to this menu, so you can kind of see all your options here if you don't plug it in automatically. So we'll continue playing, and once you select any one of these languages, OSDCloud is going to internally check and find the matching feature update. If you look get feature update, it's going to get the volume license version of 21H1 in English US, and it's given me a link. This is the file it's going to download. And it also runs a get my driver pack. And so what this has done, it's detected that it's a Dell 5410, and it's looked online using Dell's driver pack catalog to determine what driver pack it needs. Dell is awesome in the fact that they make this in cab file, so it can easily be extracted in WinPE. HP and Lenovo don't do that. Theirs is an executable that won't unpack in a 64-bit PE environment, so those have to be unpacked during the specialized phase, not in WinPE. And you'll see here at the bottom, it says invoke OSDCloud starting in 5 seconds. And I'll go ahead and continue the video. So invoke OSDCloud is going to take all of these variables that have been set from start OSDCloud, and it's going to run a task. And I'll pause it here real quick. I do have the option, as you can see, if I have added an autopilot configuration JSON file onto my WinPE, it will find this and prompt me to select one. I typically don't do autopilot in testing other than our enterprise. These are fake JSONs anyway. Have to segment my work from my play. But you can also see there is a method in OSDCloud to add Office. And Office will be installed in the specialized phase, not in WinPE, if you create your Office XML files. And you can simply select one here and it will run. And then finally, once all the choices have been made, you've selected your OS, you've selected autopilot and Office if you need it. You're prompted to wipe your hard disk or multiple disks, and it will build it out for you. On a physical drive, you're going to see the recovery partition created. On a virtual machine, the recovery partition won't be created. And you can see here, I have some decent download speeds. Looking at the bottom, it shows my total time of 2 minutes, 22 seconds. That's calculating time spent and time left. This uses curl to do the download, and that's why we get this nice progress indicator from using curl. And I think 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes is very respectable for wireless in WinPE, no Ethernet. And rather than watching this whole process go along, we're simply going to advance further, and we can see once this file is downloaded, it's going to expand the ESD file. Now, an ESD file is a very highly, tightly compressed file similar to a WIM. They take ages to build. If you're to create an ESD file, it will take probably 2 or 3 times as long as it does to create a WIM, but it will be as small as it can possibly be. And then once this gets unpacked onto the C drive, the next process is to, I'll pause it right here, set the system partition. And once that's done, a driver download will take place. In my case, it's downloading straight from Dell, and it will unpack the cab, and then it will apply the Dell drivers in WinPE directly. So this means as soon as your computer reboots, your OS has got all the drivers it needs, and fingers crossed, everything should work at this point. So this is the expansion here, and then you've got an offline servicing bit. And as you can see, we're 10 minutes into the process. It doesn't take long. We got another minute for it to actually apply the drivers. It looks like 2 minutes in my case. and then make sure it's paused right here. And once the drivers are unpacked, there's really nothing else to do. The final steps that are in this process is to apply some PowerShell modules. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this so you can see which modules are being applied, because these should go pretty quick. The first module is the OSD module, and that is applied to your offline OS simply because it needs at least one function to unpack any HP or Lenovo drivers. This can be removed as soon as your OS is complete. And this process here is going to also, you can see it's downloading OSD. So there's two actions here. It should actually copy the OSD module from PE, and then it's going to, if it has a connection to PowerShell Gallery, it will pull it from PowerShell Gallery as well. You'll see package management is updated onto the offline OS, and that is simply because the version that Microsoft likes to put in Windows 10 is aged. And so updating that is important if you're going to run autopilot, and you can see PowerShell Get is also installed. And we should have one more. Windows Autopilot Intune, which includes Azure AD. And so these are all being installed in the offline OS, Graph Intune, and then finally the script, which went real quick, forget Windows Autopilot Info, Michael Niehouse's script. See if I can pause that so you can see that. There it is right there. And so this is what's going to allow you to, in out-of-box experience, register this machine in autopilot and get going. And you see here, completed in 11 minutes, 10 seconds, which is pretty respectable. And we can go ahead and reboot the machine. The easiest way to reboot is simply close the command window. This stays open in order to keep PE from rebooting, but closing that causes the machine to reboot. Now, I did manage to record everything on here. You can see I've got my system starting up. And right here, it's installing all the hardware. There's nothing to unpack here because the Dell system used a cab driver. So it's all installed in WinPE. So all the devices should now just be enabled and ready to go. And this is what's called the specialized phase of an OS deployment. You're probably also going to see a pop-up in just a second that is related to the driver unpack. Let's see if I can find it here. Right here. There it was. That was a nice little warning. Let's see. It was quick, I guess. There we go. And it basically looks for any content that's in C drivers and tries to unpack it. This is how I apply Lenovo and HP drivers. It knows that the cab has already been expanded because it sees the destination directory already exists. And it finds a JSON file in there. I'm going to have to rewrite this just to exclude JSON files. But the JSON file is basically, it's a marker that I put in there when I download the driver that tells it where this driver came from. And I can show you what that looks like so you understand there's nothing bad happening here. And we're just going to open it in code. And as you can see, it basically tells us where the driver came from and what models it supports. These are two Dell products, and this was part of this driver release, March 2nd of 2021. And so that JSON file is really informational when it comes to the driver. So that's what it's doing there. And then once this is done, we're going to reboot again, and you should be in out-of-box experience at this point. Now, if you had added an autopilot JSON, you may go ahead and be configured to connecting to your tenant, or you can obviously press Shift F10 and run autopilot that way and register your device using Get Windows Autopilot Info. So I wanted to keep this more conversational, and so I'd like to go and open this up. If you guys have some questions, I'm going to look in the meeting chat and see what's been asked. Brendan, OSDCloud makes it very easy to add additional drivers through my limited experience. Thanks. Yes. Mac and Reflect does use WinRE for their recovery environment, including easy driver add support. I'll have to take a look at that, the Mac and Reflect. Thanks, Dan. Yes, if anyone has questions, let me know. Here's a question. Does Office Download use the ODT setup exe? It would be great if the Office team would put ODT on GitHub. Yes, it does. So let me exit out of this video. And on OSDCloud proper, the website under Get Started, there is going to be a section called Enable OSDCloud ODT. And what this will do, and I'm going to click on these so you can see it, is when you're building your workspace, right after you build it, you simply run this Enable OSDCloud ODT. And what this is going to do, it's going to download your Office deployment tool and then create some sample profiles for you. And then you can use those in your deployment. So this on the website explains how to use it. If we want to look at what it looks like in production, this is what we see here, Office 365 Pro Plus, my monthly enterprise, and then here's my XML.
Sorry, David, are you sharing your screen? I can't see the screen.
No, yes, I am not. Thank you. All right, let's try this again. So on OSDdeploy.com, there is under Get Started, Enable OSDCloud ODT. That stands for the Office Deployment Tool. And this is what you're going to use to actually get Enable OSDCloud in, Enable ODT in OSDCloud. And this will create some sample XML files for you and a directory structure for you to use. And if we look at how this looks in the real world, it's simply in my OSD Cloud workspace, it creates an ODT directory, which you can copy to your USB. And then this will contain all the information you need to handle these deployments for Office. You can put your custom XML in here, as long as you've got setup in the same directory and your Office data in here, it should deploy automatically. You also don't have to have your Office data, and I'll show you what this looks like. I actually have a video of this, so we can look at that and see how it works. And so this is the specialized phase where drivers get installed. And remember I said how OSD does the module installs in your offline OS? This is additionally so it can handle an Office installation. And you'll see it, let me find where it actually kicks off. And what this is going to actually do, I believe in this instance, it's going to download the content using Ethernet. You can't do this on wireless because keep in mind over PE we've rebooted and it doesn't know what SSID to connect to. So this has to be Ethernet only, or if you put all the data and content on a USB drive that's built by OSDCloud, you can absolutely do it this way. And so this will install Office from ODT during the specialized phase, and this obviously takes a while. There's really nothing to it. You're all set. It's installed now. And the PowerShell ISE is just something I throw up to prevent it from rebooting. Here, this is not going to happen in yours. It just happens to be in this video that I released. And so when you actually run it, and you can see here, we're going through out-of-box experience. And I want you to see what the first login is going to look like. And you can see I've logged into Windows. And of course, I get the app was reset. Teams just installed automatically and pops up automatically. But as you can see, Office is completely installed and ready to go. In this situation, this is a non-autopilot, but it's all there. So does this answer the question about Office in ODT in OSDCloud? Again, all the instructions for enabling this are online. I don't know if I would do this in an enterprise environment. In my testing, I found that it didn't actually speed things up faster than a deployment from Configuration Manager or a post install in autopilot where you're downloading from the cloud later. It won't save much time at all, and you may find it a little more difficult to control on your own. But again, proof of concept, it works.
Cool, thanks for that. So yeah, there was some more questions in the chat. Just one from Chris Wright, which has been answered, but just for the purpose of the video, who hosts the OS installation files? So those ASD files and the files that you downloaded, they come direct from Microsoft. Yeah.
Yes, they do. And as long as I've got the screen still sharing, the command that it uses, and I've really tried to put all of the functions that are used when you're running OSDCloud inside, so you know exactly what function is being called. You can actually take apart the invoke OSDCloud and see how it all works. But to get the feature update, I simply run this command here, and you can see the file URL is coming straight from Microsoft. So yes, there should be no issue there. This is where we would select a different build. If I wanted 1909, you'll see now I've got my 1909 feature update language. And you'll see here that this changes based on language. So it does pick a default automatically when you run get-feature update, which is part of the OSD module.
Cool.
But you'll also see there's a save feature update function that is paired with get feature update, which you can use if you manually want to download the feature update outside of OSDCloud. And I like exposing these functions so it's not just limited to OSDCloud. You can find whatever use you want for it if you need to. So yes, Microsoft hosts the files. Daniel, any plans for adding support for a custom unattended XML? It is possible to do. When you run OSDCloud, and it's probably best if I actually get into OSD Cloud. So the module itself, so give me just a second, let me pull it up. In Visual Studio Code so that you guys can see what's happening. I'll make this a little smaller. All right, I hope everyone can see this, and really glad I can share this out. This is Invoke OSD Cloud, so this runs the whole process. And again, you'll see it's very easy to take apart. And what's been added and what I haven't documented yet is the fact that you can create your own variables to control a lot of these settings. And I would say give me a few weeks and I'll release how to actually control all of this using variables only. So there are plans to make this more variable based, but if you look towards the bottom, Panther is where you're going to put an unattend XML. Applying drivers with unattend. So there are some uses where I'm actually using unattend. In fact, set OSD Cloud unattend specialize is what puts the unattend that's needed to kick off the driver update. So if I look at that function, set OSD Cloud unattend specialize, you'll see here that this is my unattend file right here. Okay. And this unattend file is being written straight into Panther. And then I'm going to run a separate command. Let's see, it's being saved as invoke OSD specialize.xml. So yes, there is a way for you to put a custom unattend. If you want to take the contents of this, which tell it to run this command, and put it in your custom unattend XML, then you'd simply, you'd have to do some editing and invoke OSD Cloud to do that. But if you give me a few weeks, I can certainly work out the easiest way to add that content. But all of it, again, is completely open for you guys to see in the module. Can't see the screen, just me. Yes, just you, I guess. Jordan, can you see the screen now?
Yeah, that was around about when I jumped in and reminded you to share your screen. So the next question was the what components are in your custom WinPE? Can we ever do it with a bog standard WinPE or WinRE?
So for WinPE, back again on OSD Cloud under concepts, there's something called Universal WinPE. And what this will explain is what I do to WinPE to make it a default. Well, what kind of customizations? And they've all been listed here. I hope everyone can see this well, but it's broken down, and I do update this as I make changes. But that custom WinPE is what you find in your template, which is located in Program Data OSD Cloud. So as you can see, there's really nothing done to it other than enabling PowerShell Gallery, adding curl, and the ADK packages. And what you can do in your template, and let me pull mine up. Is it simply creates under media, it is a bare boot WIM with the ADK packages, no additional drivers, nothing else. And you can actually take this boot WIM and you can put it so that MDT uses it. You can use this as your configuration manager boot WIM. And that's why there's a template. It's more or less a WinPE that's not modified. Now, if you use WinRE, there are a little different changes. It is going to convert WinRE to a Windows pre-installation environment. So if you use WinRE, and we can see this when I run, I'm going to pop open another PowerShell window, and we'll just do this one. We can see new OSD Cloud template, and there's a simple checkbox that tells it WinRE. And what this WinRE does, it's going to take your WinRE from your OS. So hopefully you're not on server. This is what enables wireless, but it will convert the WinRE to a WinPE. Now, the other thing to note is you'll notice if you look in PowerShell, there are a few different commands that are related to WinRE that are part of the OSD module. I don't know if that's it. Git. I almost don't even know all the names for it. Get reagent XML is a function that's part of OSD, and this should look familiar because it's similar to reagent C, and so I had to add functions to find where your recovery environment is. But one thing you have that's new is copy winre.wim, and I can simply run this command, and this is kind of cool. It's now copied it to temp. It's unhidden my recovery partition, copied WinRE out of the recovery partition into a temp directory. If I set my destination directory or set the file name, then I would have it there. But this is one easy way you can get WinRE without having to do all the 20 steps needed to unhide the recovery partition. So there's some cool stuff hidden in the OSD module that all support this that normally people would put in private. And as you can see, a ton of functions related to this. So definitely have a look into this, but you can take the WinRE, the WinPE that's in your template, and replace WinPE from anywhere. What else we have? If any 802.1x auth is involved in Wi-Fi, I don't know yet. I only know kind of what I am able to test. If somebody else has managed to do 802.1x, I'd be happy to work with you in order to get that working in OSD Cloud. So Antonio, you want to reach out to me outside and let's see if we can make this happen? Yes, so interesting that your WinRE OSD Cloud has the ability to reach PowerShell Gallery, since the default of PowerShell still does not use TLS 1.2, does it? I don't know. To be honest, I think I put it in the functions to download stuff in TLS 1.2, but if you're doing install module, I guess I believe it is defaulted to TLS 1.2. So it does work. I'll have to get back with you, Carl, on what I've done on the TLS side of things, but I don't think there's been anything I've modified. This is a good question from Ewan Brown. During my initial development, you suggested you didn't have access to physical HP Lenovo devices. How are you emulating models on a VM? Okay, well, yes, that's true. I still don't have any HP devices. If you want to send me some free ones, but the best example I can give is if I look at this virtual machine here, and you'll see the title of the virtual machine is OSD Cloud HP 8735 ProBook. It's some big ungodly name, but I save it in the name because it allows me to, let's see if I can make this bigger. No, not letting me. But if you look at Start OSD Cloud, my parameters, for parameters, I put manufacturer HP, and I have product 8275. And this is what I use to simulate hardware, because basically what's happening is I'm auto-detecting the hardware and trying to find a matching driver, but this is one way to override that. And if you see, if I put it in here as the manufacturer and the product, then my OSD Cloud thinks I am an HP, whatever this is. And you can see here when it runs get my driver pack, it's going to pull down the driver for that particular model. And in this case, I've actually done that. And I can reboot this now. And what we should see is we should see in Specialize, it's going to unpack this. And sometimes when I restart a VM, it doesn't pick up automatically. I guess this happens to everybody, not just me. But we're going to let that cook. And we should see the HP driver that exists in C drivers unpack. I hope everyone can see that.
I can see it. I'm impressed that you're doing a live demo. That is
snapshots.
It's courageous.
But and I've got another VM here where I've got Start OSD Cloud and I've set my manufacturer to Lenovo and my product, and I don't know what product to get. So what I can do, and we don't want to block our VM. So let's let this finish first, and then we'll pop back into PowerShell. What you're going to see is the executable that was downloaded in WinPE for the HP driver is going to be expanded. So it works. This is the only way I can test it without HP hardware. And doing this actually allowed me to speed up a lot of testing in OSD Cloud by keeping it in a virtual environment. I can restore a checkpoint and until I finally nailed and got Lenovo and HP working. So, but it's a great way to either simulate a deployment, and here it goes, for an HP device in a VM. You just have to know the product, and you see here, it's expanding the driver pack. And the way this works is Lenovo and HP will be an exe file, and I'm simply using PowerShell to read the information of the exe to find out who makes it and whether it's using the HP SoftPack wrapper or the Lenovo tool that they use to compress it. And then I simply kick off the unpack switches, and then I'm installing them to the OS. So the way you would get the product is there, for example, I've typed in Lenovo in PowerShell, and I've got get catalog Lenovo driver pack. And if I run get catalog, you'll see the OSD module has quite a few different catalogs that are available. And so what I'll do with Lenovo, and compatible is what narrows it down for me, but what I could do here is an out grid view, and this is going to simply show me every single driver that Lenovo makes, and it shows me what products are supported. Let me sort this by name. This may not be exactly the model name, but this is how they identify them. So this is not something I've created. This is something I get from reading the Lenovo catalog, and it gives me all of these products. For example, this ThinkCenter M715Q, any one of these products in this product array, so 10 M4. And so if I go back to my Lenovo VM, I can enter this product as 10M4 and kick it off. And I'm just going to take some defaults here. And here, it's going to run a get my driver pack, and it thinks that it is a ThinkCenter model. So I've controlled seed out, but yes, it thinks it's a ThinkCenter M715Q. So that's how I'm able to test Lenovo drivers in Hyper-V. Clever? I don't know.
For me, that's clever. I mean, you had a problem. You didn't have a machine. I would probably have just bought a machine rather than think of a clever way to solve it.
This was like a 4-beer problem. I couldn't wrap my head around it until I had 4 beers, and it worked. So
I think every problem's a 4-beer problem, isn't it? That's how I handle it.
I have started doing some work on Panasonic Toughbooks to add those to OSDCloud. So if you're one of the 2 people in the community that use Toughbooks, there's my company. All right, plug, shout out to Baker Hughes.
I've got a couple of Toughbooks, and so does Andy. So yeah, we can help out.
Okay, so those are coming.
Yeah. I'm not a lover of Toughbooks, if I'm honest, but yeah.
Until you drop them, and then you appreciate
it.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
As of April 2020, TLS is set to be the default. Okay, all right. I'll follow up on that. When RE act different? I honestly couldn't tell you. But for example, this is WinPE. And obviously, I'm not going to rewrite install module commandlet, so this is all default. So anyway, yes, PowerShell Gallery should work. I hope it doesn't fail me now. Untrusted repository, that's promising. So we're just going to say A, yes to all. But the cool thing is write your own modules and start using them in PE, pretty cool. Yes, it's usual behavior, the black screen on PowerShell. Okay, good. Lenovo, the product parameter uses 4-letter machine type. Okay, yes, which you guys have already seen. Now, the other thing that I've had to do was these are all offline as well. So if I don't have a connection, so for example, we know because I've loaded a module that I have an internet connection. Now I don't. Okay, I'm fully offline right now. But if I run start OSDCloud, and let me see if I can find a different piece of hardware. Let's go with a ThinkPad 20B6. Oh, let's change it up. Let's even do an HP. And the reason this is important is because sometimes people can make get HP, get catalog. Let's just say Dell. Not working right. And then product is going to be, and in this title, 0A33. Now, I don't have an internet connection, and you'll see here it failed. We can't talk to the internet, so it can't download anything, but it also can't well, it couldn't verify feature update. Okay. So one thing I do is you can map a drive, and you can do this completely offline. And I'll show you how that works. Because I look for the drivers on any available drive. $, no IP address. Well, this isn't going to work out. But for example, if all of this was on a USB, then the driver pack would still work because I keep local copies of the driver packs in the module itself. So even if there was no internet connection, it would still know what driver pack it needs. And if you have that driver pack on a USB, it would still work. So that's another thing about, you know, and again, unfortunately, I can't show this without this being a physical machine, because it's always going to detect Microsoft Hyper-V. But the driver packs will work online or offline, whether you're connected or not, as long as you've got it copied down. Rule of thumb, if NuGet works, TLS 1.2 works. No worries. Good.
Cool. And then a message from Carl at the top there saying, why are we still bothering with MDT in small customer environments? If, you know, the more we look at this, why bother with MDT?
Well, you know, there's a lot of cloud-based stuff. And, you know, one case that occurs to me all the time is high security lockdown environments where you have your air gapped. You know, you still have to have some method to install those systems, and MDT seems to satisfy and check a lot of boxes on an air gapped environment. So, and you know, variety is good. I do know that some people have gotten the driver functionality of OSDCloud working in MDT, and I do have that detailed on my website. And so Jeff Hollis in particular, he's been able to get his drivers from 100 gig in MDT to 0. So there is some benefit of taking some of these concepts and putting them in MDT or Configuration Manager. And I'll go back to the website, and we can see here MDT driver packs. And that, again, this is all detailed here on the website. So you do have some instructions on how to use the drivers for MDT. It works quite well. So I don't know. I think MDT still has its market, still has some use until everyone goes full autopilot. Yay, tough books. Thanks, Andrew. Can we do a live demo to see how tough they are? I don't have one. MDT custom app installs via task sequence. Can you install third-party apps via OSDCloud? So pretty much all of the work of OSDCloud happens in WinPE. And so once we reboot, there's very limited interaction at all. There is the OSD module, but really it's more or less designed to give you a clean image and give you a good handoff to out-of-box experience. And from there, you should either be able to pick up with autopilot and then have your have a task sequence apply to your autopilot configuration and do it that way. So the driver integration happening in specialized phase, okay, that is third party, but that is a very limited case, and Office was very limited as well. One thing you need to understand about Office is before the install in Specialize, I had to turn off telemetry in Office. Before I did that, Office would never install. So the Specialized phase is a very limited place where you can install some easy applications. Office worked because it really installs on a profile level after you log in. but I wouldn't expect you to be able to install anything complicated in Specialized because no user profiles exist when that occurs. So I'm going to say no to third-party apps via OSDCloud. Have I looked at ways to deploy Linux? Wow. I honestly haven't even looked at Linux other than the integration that's happening with Windows 10, 21H1. So no. 100 gigabytes to 0. Okay, yeah, good GIF. We use a USB pin with PE installed and pull across network. Okay. Autopilot plus Intune. Which stage should we deploy third-party apps? You're going to have to put that in a task sequence after, you know, and attach that to your autopilot configuration, you know.
Yeah.
Anything more complicated than that, then stick with Config Manager or MDT. But we all know autopilot is really just to get us attached to our corporate network and just to get us registered. And then we use our other tools to customize our OS from that point on.
Yeah.
So I am more than happy to answer any additional questions or any additional feedback. I think everything's a little slowed down and I can probably turn over at this point.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through that. Really do appreciate that.
Two more things.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, I love the community, guys. So reach out, follow me on Twitter, and you know, post a question if you think of something later. And keep in mind, I have a day job, but I will try and help you guys as much as possible. But you know, take time to read what I've put on OSDCloud. There's a lot of great information in there on how to do things. If you've just looked at it from the high level and played around with it and haven't gotten into some deep stuff, there's some cool stuff that you can do. There's some other stuff in there like injecting cloud drivers, which I'm looking at putting into OSD Builder. So there is going to be some stuff coming from this. But I'd like to also hear what you guys are doing with it because that's the only way I can make it better and improve it. It was really thrown together last minute. I mean, I didn't sit around for months thinking, what can I do for the community? It just kind of worked in my lab, and so I shared it. And so it's really up in the air to what the future of OSDCloud is, but the best I can do is simply keep it kind of open for you guys to take apart and look at and play with and give feedback on there. And the second thing is I want to thank Recast Software. They've decided to work with me and sponsor OS Deploy and my blog, and they want me to do a couple sessions with them. So I'll probably be doing more with them in the future. And I just want to thank him for working with the community and looking out for us. So thanks.
Yeah.
And your user group, man, I hope you guys keep coming back. I think this was awesome having this many people come to this group, and please consider coming back next month. Right, Dean? You do this every month?
Yeah, second Tuesday, like the patches. Yeah, so thank you very much for taking the time to do that. That was really good. There have been some more questions put in the chat, so if you want to answer them in your own time, or if you got time to run through them now, if you think the answers are quick.
Yeah, no, I'll be answering them. If you want to keep moving on, I'll stay in chat.
Awesome.
David, that's great. Thanks very much. That was really, really great. Thanks.
So next we've got Shabaz Darr doing an overview of WVD, and after that we've got a quiz essentially with prizes. So stick around for that afterwards, and hopefully David will still be there answering all the questions that are piling in. But yeah, over to Shabaz if you're ready for that.
Cheers, Dean. Hello, evening, everyone. David, thank you for that great session. Quite a bit to follow there, so you've left me in a bit of a pickle, but I'll do my best. I'm just going to share my screen. Is everyone okay seeing that? Can you see that?
Yes.
So yeah, I've got a bit of a demo and a PowerPoint deck. So not a lot of slides, but I just wanted to go do a bit of theory before I go into the demo. So yeah, welcome everyone to the Cloud Management User Group. My name is Shabaz Darr. You can find me on Twitter at Shabaz Darr, LinkedIn. I've got my own YouTube channel, and I've also got a blog as well. So yeah, going to do a Windows Virtual Desktop overview. So I'd say this is going to be a level 100. It's not going to be deep technical, but I'm going to go into some technical when I do the demo and show you some of the sort of features and the back end. So what I'm going to cover is, what is Windows Virtual Desktop? We'll look at some of the features within WVD, including host pools, application groups, and workspaces. Do a little bit on FS Logics as well, because even though it's not really a WVD feature, it is a major part of WVD. So I will touch on that. Then I'll look at some of the use cases where you can use WVD and really that I've experienced during the almost 18 months that it's been around. I'll do an overview of the architecture as well. I've got a neat little diagram, which I'll go into. And then demo time. And I'd say if any questions you have, just obviously put them in the chat and I'll get to those as and when. So what is Windows Virtual Desktop? Essentially, it's a Microsoft hosted VDI. For any of you out there who've done on-premises VDI solutions like RDS and Citrix, it's again, VDI platform, but it's hosted by Microsoft. One of the big key elements of it is its multi-session Windows 10 deployment. So whereas, again, historically on-premises VDI, you've always had to do sort of a server operating system, 2008, 2012, and so on. This is now multi-session Windows 10. So you can incorporate all your Windows 10 features, Intune, and all that sort of stuff, which I'll go into shortly with Windows Virtual Desktop. Application virtualization is obviously a big part of it, as is with most VDI platforms. There are 3 ways you can deploy applications through WVD, which I'll go into in a little while. Reduced management. So by this, as I mentioned, with it being hosted by Microsoft, with anything infrastructure-wise that's hosted by Microsoft, there's a lot that they take away from your hands. So they manage a lot of it that you don't need to. So what's managed by Microsoft? If we think of, like I said, RDS on premises, there used to be web access, gateway, broker service, and all the diagnostic side of it. They manage all that. Microsoft take all that away, and you don't even see that in the back end. What the client, as in you who manages it from a client perspective, what you're in charge of is the watering and feeding of that environment. So we're talking about patching, we're talking about any feature updates, making sure there's network connectivity, the identity side of it, making sure people have the access they need. That's what kind of you as a client have in control. But again, it's a lot less than if you're managing an on-premises solution where you'd have to think about power, electricity, potentially UPS, power outages, all that stuff that I'm sure we've all suffered from it in the past managing on-premises solutions. So some of the features, host pools. We'll go to host pools first of all. A host pool is essentially a collection of virtual machines. So you can have multiple host pools within one tenancy, and then there are obviously different type of host pools as well, which I'll get into shortly. Which brings me on to this, which is pooled or personal. So there's pooled host pools or there's personal host pools. Pooled host pools are essentially you deploy a number of session hosts, a number of VMs within your pooled host pool, and essentially your users who log in, they share those sessions. So you can have multiple users logged on to one session host. So if you could have 10 users logged onto one session host, maybe 15 logged onto another, and so on. With personal, this is essentially each person gets their own personal virtual machine. So if you have 10 users who are accessing it, they'll all have their own machine. Obviously, there comes a commercial question there. Obviously, pooled is going to be a lot cheaper than personal, because again, if you've got like hundreds and thousands of users that you're going to be using this with, you don't want to be deploying that many virtual machines. So pooled will probably be more better suited. But if you've only got a small use case where you can have maybe 10 users doing it for whatever reason, then personal might be okay, because again, it's a small number of virtual machines still, 10 new VMs, and you're giving them that personal compute resources. So some prerequisites that you require for a host pool: you need a network. So in Azure's case, it's a VNet. You need a VNet provisioned in your Azure tenancy. You need a domain for your session host to join to. So the two options you have here, one thing to note is Azure AD. For those of you who know identity in Azure, you can't domain join any virtual machines or infrastructure to Azure AD because it's password hash based. So you need something that's Kerberos or NTLM. So you can provision a domain controller on a virtual machine on the same network as your WVD tenancy if you want, or you can use Azure AD Domain Services, which is probably the more suited service for this type of deployment. I mean, you could even go as far as using an on-premises domain controller, but then you would need a site-to-site VPN from Azure into your network on premises. And also you kind of got one point of failure. If your VPN fails, then your users can't log on either. So if you are going to have some sort of domain, have it hosted in Azure AD Domain Services or on a virtual machine potentially. You need a virtual machine image. Again, there's a process you can follow to create this within Azure, but similar to the sort of normal on-premises image you'd create. You have a Windows 10 base and you add your applications that you want on your desktop. Make sure you've got all the updates installed on it, you've got the right version that you want to have on it, and then you can sysprep that and essentially capture that image within Azure. And then you can use that to deploy to your session hosts. So the next feature is application groups. So application groups is essentially a collection of remote applications that you can present to a user or a group of users. There are two types of application groups. Desktop, so that is your desktop session kind of host essentially. So it's just a shortcut to their desktop. And the other one is a remote app. So this could be Office apps or any type of application that's maybe installed on your image, or you can use a service called MSIX to attach to the application. So there's different ways you can publish applications. You can either do it from the start menu of your Windows image that you've published, or you can use the file path. Again, it has to be installed. In both these cases, it has to be installed on the image that you're using. Or as I mentioned, you can use MSIX app. So this is, as I said, this is a new Windows app packaging format, and it provides a modern app packaging experience for Windows applications. And essentially, you can deploy features from Win32, WPF, and also Windows Forms applications. So that's quite a new feature that's been released within WVD. The final feature that I just want to touch on is workspaces. So a workspace is essentially a logical grouping of application groups in Windows Virtual Desktop. So each Windows Virtual Desktop application group must be associated with a workspace for your users to see your remote apps and your desktop that's published to them. And you must have at least one workspace per kind of WVD environment. Sorry if you can hear my kids in the background. So the final feature that I wanted to touch on was FS Logic. So this isn't really a WVD feature, so to speak. FS Logic has been around for a while, but it's very prominent in WVD. So Windows Virtual Desktop Service recommends FS Logics for your profile containers as a user profile solution. So if you think of essentially what used to be roaming profiles in on-premises RDS, this essentially covers that off for Windows Virtual Desktop. As I mentioned, it's designed for roaming profiles in your remote computing environment. So I believe FS Logics does support stuff like RDS and Citrix and those other technologies, but it's quite prominent in Windows Virtual Desktop. It fully integrates with Azure AD domain services as well. So when it comes to permissions, because again, with it being a profile service, you need to make sure your users can access it and have the right level of access. You need to make sure your administrators can access it as well. Because the way it's configured is you basically provision an Azure file share within your storage account, and then you domain join your storage account to Azure AD domain services. Again, I can show that in the demo when I go into that a little bit later on. So away from WVD, just some other FS Logic features that I wanted to touch on. It supports Office containerization. It supports application masking, and also it supports Java version control as well. So kind of away from WVD, just some of the sort of things FS Logics can do. So we're close towards the end. You have a couple more slides. So I just wanted to go at a high level of a Windows Virtual Desktop architecture and how it can integrate with the rest of the Azure ecosystem. So we have Azure Active Directory. Everything sits on top of your identity in Microsoft Cloud, as we know. SaaS, PaaS, all those services that they need some sort of access. So WVD is no different. Azure AD sits kind of on the bottom. You then have, again, this is the part that Microsoft control, your sort of back-end web access gateway broker. We, as the end user or the end administrator, we don't see this. This is all what Microsoft controls. But then we have our subscription and our overarching virtual network. So this is the part where we come into as the administrators. This is what we start to control now. And then for on-premises integration, we have our maybe an Azure AD Connect server, some sort of gateway or VPN, and we have applications stored on site, for example. We then have a gateway subnet, and we then have for your VPN access. And then that can also be paired with a DMZ subnet and some sort of network virtual appliance, for maybe a WatchGuard firewall or a Palo Alto firewall or something like that. And then you can have you have a VPN. We've obviously got two different types of VPN. We've got the Azure native VPN, which is obviously a lot more cost effective, but for larger deployments, probably not recommended as the throughput and the encryption isn't as good as an express route. So in my example, I've put an express route. We then have, as I mentioned, you need to have some sort of facility to domain join your host pools and your session hosts. So that's where I've put in an Azure AD domain services subnet, and your Azure AD domain services tenant sits on that, and I can show you that within the demo shortly. And here we come to our multi-session host pools. In my environment, I've put multi-sessions. And you notice I've got a couple of different workloads, and by that, what I mean is that's basically each workload is a different host pool. And depending on what type of workload you have, for example, you could have admin staff that just use sort of Word and Excel and Internet. They could use smaller virtual machines. They don't need powerful virtual machines. So you could give them a different workload, maybe an A series VM or something like that. And then maybe for workload 2, if you have maybe people who design documents, marketing people who use Adobe suites that need a lot more compute and CPU, and RAM usage, you could give them a bit more powerful virtual machines like maybe the D series, etc. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to control your costs. So you're not giving everyone big, powerful virtual machines. You're giving them the level of virtual machine that they need. And it's a good way of sort of controlling cost. And then again, in my example, mine's very much an enterprise sort of level. I've gone for Azure NetApp files. So this is where we're going to integrate with FS Logics and store our user profiles. You can obviously use Azure files, but Azure NetApp files is supported with WVD as well. And now we're going to start getting into the rest of the ecosystem. So we can publish our applications, as I mentioned. We can start using automation and scaling. We can start using Azure Monitor and Azure Log Analytics, Azure Sentinel, things like that. Azure Security Center. And obviously we have our image gallery to control our Windows 10 image. And what I wanted to really show with this architecture was that the way WVD can integrate with the rest of the Azure sort of ecosystem. And when I'm talking to customers, this is really how I sell it to users and customers. I say, look, it's not just about WVD, it's about how it integrates with everything else. You've got the monitoring, the automation, the automated scalability, all that sort of stuff. And finally, sorry, at the top left, can't forget the users. We have an external endpoint, so our users dialing in or connecting into WVD, and it supports multi-factor authentication and conditional access as well. So if you do have a use case where, and I'll get into some use cases shortly, but if you have a use case where you've got a user at home, obviously at the moment with the pandemic, using their own machine, you can control it so they have to multi-factor authenticate before they can access WVD. And again, you can lock it even further down with conditional access so they can't download any data or anything to their local machine. So just some use cases I want to touch on before I finish up and go into the demo. So again, these are use cases that I've personally worked on within the last 18 months. So security and regulation applications like financial services, healthcare and government. I'm starting to see a lot of use cases there where they're starting to incorporate Windows Virtual Desktop because it is such a secure environment. Having an elastic workforce, so remote working, again, the pandemic has been there's been a prime example of when WVD has just grown into something huge. A lot of businesses are taking it up now, so they don't have to provide users with laptops. They can spend that sort of money on provisioning cloud services like WVD. A lot of people, obviously clients that I'm talking to at the moment as well, are using it for short-term employees like contractors or even partner access. So if they have like a partner who needs access to their infrastructure for a short period of time, maybe a few months, rather than spending £500–600 on a laptop or a desktop, you can actually give them access to a WVD session, and it's a lot more cost effective than giving them a laptop. So a lot of conversations I'm having I do revolve around partner access. BYOD, or you bring your own device, or a customer said to me today, use your own device is what they call it. It's the first time I've heard that, but maybe people use that. So again, I mentioned it, people like mobile users using their own devices at home to essentially use WVD, and you can control that with MFA and conditional access. So specialized workloads, like I mentioned, designing and engineering, legacy apps and software development and testing. They're looking towards WVD as well to use its different features. A customer that I had last week, we were talking about WVD, and they're looking at it from I've not put it on the slide deck, but for BCP as well, so business continuity plan. So essentially, if they lose their home site, they have a dormant WVD tenancy already in there. And they can launch that in case they need to. If they lose site A, they can go into that, get users working from home. And even at the moment, I'm doing a lot of stuff, trying to do a lot of stuff with Terraform as well, for anyone who knows Terraform, and to be able to provision WVD and have it, that reusable sort of coding. So again, it's fully integrated with WVD. You can use Terraform to provision services as well. So demo time, I'm just going to quickly change my screen. I will get to the questions at the end. I'll just go into the demo if that's all right. Do a quick overview from a technical perspective there.
Yeah, thanks, Shabaz. There's a couple of questions. One from me, one from Andy.
I'll launch my demo and I'll quickly answer some of the questions. No problem. Ooh, where are we? Teams has changed how you share things now. It's quite annoying.
I think they try to change it every second week, don't they? Just to really mess with your head.
Use everybody, yeah. Can everyone see my Chrome window?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll answer some questions quickly. Shabaz, have you tried this out? Do the integration with Intune? Yes, Andy. Yeah, that's a good point. So that was recently, a couple of months ago, actually, having they started to release some Intune features. So enrolling the sort of Windows 10 into Intune and also using endpoint analytics. Those are sort of things I've been only in a demo at the moment, but I've done some integration with that, and also using sort of the sort of compliance policies and stuff like that. Again, just in a demo at the moment, but that's quite interesting. And again, with WVD being one of their main sort of flagship services at the moment, they're putting so much time into development. They're, again, similar to Teams, they're releasing new features every week, or every couple of weeks. So it isn't really very expensive compared to running a DC nodes. Yeah. Again, a good question, Dean. It does depend on the size of the VM, I suppose. as Jordan just pointed out there, yeah, it's around for the standard Azure AD domain services, it's £80. But what you've got to put that up against is a virtual machine. You still have to water and feed and patch and manage. Where Azure AD, so if you talk about the time it's going to take you to do that and put a commercial value to that, and then you include the cost of the virtual machine. Again, it's just 80 quid, £81 per month, and you literally just leave it and it does its thing. You don't have to manage it in any way or form. Then
That's a good point.
It's kind of, where do you go with that? I mean, again, I'm a big fan of Azure AD domain services. I try and push it for all my WVD deployments. It's just one less thing to manage.
That is good to know. Yeah, that is good to know. Thanks.
Anything else?
One at the bottom there, yeah.
At the bottom. Do you update the VMs monthly or delete and redeploy? Good question, Jonathan. What I can do is I can show you quickly how to do that in the demo. I'll quickly go over that. But yeah, essentially, when you say you want to update the image, you create the image from your. So you normally save the VHD, or you make a snapshot of the VHD, and then you can attach that to a new virtual machine. So it's the same image that you've actually got in WVD. You can fully patch that or remove and add the applications you want to add. And then again, you can sysprep it, capture it, and add it as your next version of your image. And then you can deploy that to Windows Virtual Desktop. And essentially what you do is, I'll answer that by showing you rather than just talking about it, if that's okay, Jonathan.
And final one from Jordan, Azure Image Builder works nicely. Not a question, it's more of a statement. Azure Image Builder works nicely with WVD. Are you going to show that in the demo?
No, I'm not. This is just an overview of the sort of the backend Azure portal. But no, that's thank you. It was that Jordan that put that.
Jordan Malcolm, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So okay, cool. So just to go over the sort of basics of what I've got in my tenancy at the moment. I have my storage account obviously, and I have my network. So I've got a couple of different networks, just for the demo purposes. So I've got my VNet where my virtual machines sit, and I've got my ADS VNet where my Azure AD domain services tenancy sits. And between them, I've just got some network peering so they can talk to each other. And here we have the Windows Virtual Desktop management suite, essentially. So here you can manage your host pools, your application groups, and your workspaces. So in my instance, I've got my single host pool. What I'll do is once I've just gone through some of the points on this, I'll just provision a new one just to show you how that goes. So one thing to note, you probably saw there, the location is West US. That isn't the location of any of my actual infrastructure. That's just a location of like the metadata where it's stored. UK isn't UK, any no UK regions are supported yet with WVD metadata. North Europe, I believe, came into support earlier this year, but at the moment it's the States and North Europe. So if you do have any sort of policies within your tenant that prohibit you from provisioning outside the UK, it's just one thing to know that at the moment WVD only supports the closest is North Europe. But again, it's not any infrastructure. It's sort of like the metadata essentially. So one great thing about what you can do within the portal, you can actually configure RDP properties a lot like you could in RDS on premises. So you can do the sort of connection behavior, the sort of credential security support, the actual session behavior. So when users reconnect, does it automatically try to reconnect, or does the client automatically try to reconnect? Again, some stuff about, some points about bandwidth you can change, network auto detect. These are all sort of properties that traditionally in RDS on premises you could configure. Good old device redirection. I know we've all probably had a bit of fun on that with RDS on premises, trying to redirect USB keys and webcams and stuff like that. So you can actually configure those, and you've got lots of device storage redirection and clipboard redirection. And you've got a bit of control over that within your RDP properties. Again, you can manage display settings from this RDP properties as well. The desktop size, the pixels, and the desktop scale factor. So all good sort of things you can configure, and it'll configure it for the whole session host as well. So you don't have to do it once; it'll affect everybody. And then you can actually put some specific more configure. You can customize your properties. So with Microsoft Teams, there's a few sort of properties that you need to specify, and you'd like the audio capture and the audio mode. So you can do it in rather than having to do it on each virtual machine through PowerShell, you can do it here, or instead of doing it through the registry, you can do it here. Teams wasn't a good example because it doesn't work very well in Windows Virtual Desktop.
There is just a comment from someone saying that they're struggling to hear you. Just to respond to that, I can hear you fine, and just get a bit of response from the other guys if we can, and girls if we can, just to.
Just about hear you because it sounds very faint.
Okay. Personally, it's fine for me. If anyone else is having problems, please let us know in the chat.
I'll try and turn my volume up a bit on my mic.
If you can maybe just put your face a little bit closer to the mic, just so it's sort of touching. Yeah, if you can.
Okay, yeah. I'll try and speak up a bit. No problem.
Thanks for that.
No problem. So as we go further down, this is where we get into our application groups. And what I've got two application groups. I've got one for my desktop and one for some Office applications. So I've got I've got one user that accesses my Office apps. I've got another user that accesses the actual desktop. As I mentioned, you can do MSIX packages from here as well. I've not got any set up for the demo, but this is where you can sort of create your MSIX packages. And this is where we can see our session hosts. Now, I can't remember the chap's name now that asked the question earlier about updates. Was it Jonathan maybe? But say that for example, you've got your image ready, and you've captured it, you've done all the sysprep and stuff, and now you want to actually replace your existing image. What you'd first have to do is enable drain mode. Now, drain mode, what that does is that stops any new logons from taking place. So if I just tick all those and enable drain mode, now no new users can log in to any of the session hosts. Now, any existing users, they will stay connected and they will be merrily working along, not a clue what's going on. So they can happily work. And what you do then is you would add some session hosts. Now, you notice all this is grayed out because this all needs to stay the same, so that you can't amend any of this information. And it's just the basics like the subscription, resource group, and the host pool type. So again, because it's pooled, I've got to provision pooled session hosts. So if we go into the virtual machines now, this is where we actually select the new image. So again, you make sure your resource group matches, your name prefix. If you want to rename them to anything else, you can do. I'm going to keep mine the same. Your virtual machine location. So this is obviously where we need, depending on where you are. I've obviously in the UK, so I want to keep my infrastructure in the UK. And this is essentially where we would go to our specific image. So if we go to see all images, my items, my shared image, I would have my main image here. And essentially what I've done beforehand when I've captured the image, I've added that image as a new version on this particular image. So it's the latest version. So it will, when it deploys the image, it'll deploy the latest version of that image, if that makes sense. And how many virtual machines? Let's just say 3. I mean, again, I'm going to go through the steps, but it's going to be the same image that I'm deploying, so it's not going to make any difference. And then we just again need to make sure we're doing the correct network. So I want to go to my LDS VNet. Make sure I select the right subnet. And now we need to make sure we put in domain credentials. So again, because these VMs need to domain join. So I'm quickly going to put some credentials in. This is my works demo tenant, which is why it's netcompany.team. And then what you can do is you add some local admin credentials as well. Okay. And then the rest, again, you can add some tags if you want for the purpose of a demo. I won't. something we're missing. The availability zone. So you need to select the same availability zone as you had previously. So mine was 1. And the availability zone is essentially so your resources stay highly available in case any of them fail. So review and create. Now I'll click on create, just for argument's sake, and what that'll do is now that takes about 15 minutes to provision. At this point, I'm not going to make you watch the provisioning. Don't worry, I'm not that cruel. But essentially, what's happening at the moment is those new session hosts. So they're not overwriting your existing session host. I'm going to go back in to show you. So they're not overwriting these. These are staying there. You're going to have those there because users are still logged on. Users are still working, but no new users can log in. Only existing users that were logged in. Eventually, in about 15 minutes, the 3 new virtual machines will appear, and users will start to log on to those then. Now, you have 2 options here. You can either ask users to log out and log back in who are currently logged in, or you can be really cruel and actually go in, and if it was anyone logged on, you can log them off, or you can send a message to them or log them off. So you've got a couple of options there depending on how cruel you are. I'm nice, so I'd notify them first. When everyone's logged off, what you essentially do then is you just remove these 3 session hosts from the host pool. So then you can delete those VMs because they're not needed. They're the old version of the OS and your image. So then you're back to having 3 session hosts within your host pool. And again, it's all done. Yeah, there is a bit of an outage because users can't log in for a short period of time, say 15, 20 minutes. But existing users who are already logged in, they can carry on working. So again, historically, when I've worked with on-premises solutions, there's always been like an outage. You've had to do it out of hours. This can kind of take that away if it's managed correctly. So I just want to show that little bit on updates. So we'll let that update run in the background. Like I said, it's going to take about 15 minutes. So next is so within my application group, I've got my different, I've got my desktop and my Office apps. I also have my, where's my workspace? It's not here, that's fine. The other thing I want to show you is the Azure AD tenancy that I've got. So again, these are domain joined to my Azure AD domain services. And this is simply what it is. It's just, it's your domain, but just managed from you can do a couple of management things on it, look at diagnostics, but you compare it to a domain controller on premises, you don't have to do anything with it. One point is, if you do provision Azure AD domain services, you need to ensure that you update your VNet's DNS settings to point to your domain, the 2 IP addresses that you get here. So if we go to the properties, when it's provisioned, it provisions 2 IP addresses for you within your existing VNet. So for me, it's .4 and .5. So if I go into my virtual network, which is this one, and I go into my DNS servers, you need to make sure that whatever you're using to domain join your virtual machines, the DNS IP addresses are here. So in my case, it will be those 2 IP addresses, .4 and .5. If you're using on premises domain controller, make sure it's those IP addresses. Or if you're using a virtual machine within Azure, then make sure it's that as well. So I think that's just about it for my session and my demo. Really, it's just a clear overview. Like I said, it's very high level. Actually, I can quickly go into my storage account and show you my Azure file share. So it is this one, I believe. And if I go down to my file share, profiles, and this is essentially what I've got 2 users that I use for testing, Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. Yes, I'm a comic book fan. I do prefer Marvel over DC, but I just like Batman and Superman. So when they log into Windows Virtual Desktop, it creates 2 sort of directories essentially for them. If you go within the directories, it's actually a VHD file that it creates for them as their profile. So this is how FS Logics does the sort of profile piece. So I just want to quickly show that. You can lock down your storage accounts. So quickly just go into configuration. Yep, here it is. So here you can see I've enabled Azure AD domain services. That's how simple it is to do it. You can lock down from a network perspective as well. If you want only selective networks to access it, you can do that. And you can also create a private endpoint connection as well to go really kind of secure. Again, for demo purposes, I've just opened up to everybody, but every man and the dog. But that is pretty much me done. Sorry, it's a bit short and sweet. But is any more questions?
That was brilliant. Thank you, Shabaz. Questions? I have been chatting about the recording. So yeah, the recording will be up on Meetup in a bit. There was a suggestion from Carl that MSIX Habitat is now available in Server 2022, or will be available in Server 2022, and that completely confused me as to why I'd need to care. But you know, apparently some people still have on-premise environments and RDF and stuff. So yeah, that's me being a noob. Well, that was really good. Thank you, Shabaz.
No problem.
Any other questions?
I mean, again, if there's anything down the line, please just drop me a tweet or whatever. Happy to have any offline calls as well.
Thank you. You also run a user group, don't you, Shabaz? There's a
yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, we have a it's called the Bradford Cloud User Group. We are virtual at the moment, but we'll eventually be going in person. So yeah, much like sales, we cover a lot of different topics. We did Teams last month. We're doing AWS this month. So yeah, we're at BradCug on Twitter. If you want to follow us.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so quiz time. Right, I'm going to work out how to do this. So bear with me a second. I need to share lots of screens. Well, one screen actually, but I've got lots of screens. So apologies while I sort this out. Because I don't want to share the answers. That's the thing. If I share the screen before I start the quiz, then the answers get shown, which is a very weird situation. So just going to share this. So there's no rush to join. You'll have plenty of time to join. So if you are interested in joining the quiz, there is oh, I need to move that off the screen, don't I? There is a someone correct me. There's a £20 Amazon gift voucher or gift voucher to the value of £20 for the winner, and was it 10, Andy, for the runner-up for second?
Yeah, it's yeah, £30 overall, I think. Yeah.
Very good. So hilariously, it is this under this bar here. There is a there it is. So if you go to menti.com on your phone, ideally, or on your browser, but I think it's meant for your phone. But go to your browser and menti.com. People are jumping in there. That's brilliant. So the code is 199000339. The icon is random, by the way, in case you think you've picked a unicorn and you didn't want a unicorn. Unfortunately, you're stuck with a unicorn, Mr. or Mrs. Unicorn. As Andy mentioned at the start of this, we haven't got a sponsor for this meetup. We did for the previous one. We haven't got a sponsor for this one, so we're using this different platform for running the quiz, and unfortunately we're limited to 5 questions for it, which means we've had to make them pretty hard. So good luck. So I've lost Carl. So Menti is I've seen some of the features that you can use. WordCloud was a good one. I didn't want to try all the features in the first meetup using it. So yeah, it looks pretty good. So we are going to subscribe to it, but waiting for that sponsor to kick in to pay for it, because this is getting expensive. But it is good. So I've lost the number of people we've got in the chat because I'm sharing my screen. So if anyone knows how many people we're expecting maximum, we've got 14 so far.
Yeah, there's 23 in the chat.
Okay, if anyone, one of them's on hold though. If anyone is interested in joining and you're struggling, please let us know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to start in a few moments. Okay, gonna go ahead. So this is fastest finger first. So the faster you answer a question correctly, the more points you get. You've got around 15 to 20 seconds to answer the question. And yeah, the winner will get some lovely gift card. In the middle of this, there is some feedback, so we'll pause just to give you a chance to give some feedback on the event as a whole and the presenters and that kind of thing. But that's just to break the quiz up a little bit because there's only 5 questions. But yeah, please do join. If everyone's ready, we'll give that a start now. OSDCloud support Wi-Fi, true or false? I said they were hard. Maybe this one's a bit easy. Okay, 12. Well done. Hopefully David got that right. Next up. Oh, we have a leaderboard. Look at that. That's cool. Ooh. Oh, I can't. Everyone was pretty much instant on that. There's not anything in it. Actually, Jordan and Homer were neck and neck, so that's good. Next up. Question 2. The term WinPE, what does PE stand for? Is it performance environment, pre-installation environment, pre-boot execution, or pro edition? I would have got that wrong, personally, but well done to everyone who got it right. Ah, look, it's top to bottom. So, yeah, there you go. That's how it works. Question 3. When was WVD released as generally available? March 2020, September 2019, January 2019, or it's still in preview? And it was September 2019. Well done. Just in time for the pandemic. I shouldn't joke, it's a bad thing. Ooh, look at that. What's it doing? Lovely animation, but I can't make sense of it. So Alkemar's still at the top. Jordan is now second. Question 4. What is the maximum feature update deferral period in Windows Update for Business for 1703 plus devices? 35 days, 360 days, 365 days, or 17 days?
That's a toughie.
Yeah, but the majority got it right. Look at that. Okay. Let's see what that's done to the leaderboard. One more question left. That's a long animation, isn't it? Look at that. So Mike Salmons has taken the lead and Mark Burns answered fastest last question. Well done. Okay, so quick bit of feedback. Fastest finger first doesn't matter here. So why did you join this event today? Just choose the top 2 reasons on your phone. So is it because you enjoyed the previous event? Did you hear there was a quiz? Did you want to learn about OSD Cloud? Did you have a question? Did you want to learn about WVD? Did you want to get involved, or is it something else? Two more. All good. Thank you very much. We will catch the feedback. We will use that to improve, hopefully. And if you do have any feedback, please feel free to send it through offline as well. Final question on the feedback. Please rate the event on a scale of 1 from 1 to 5. So the event was easy to find and join. We're using Meetup right now. Is that the right platform to use? The information was good quality. The demos and presentations were interactive. And I'd recommend this next event to a colleague or friend if you don't have colleagues. Just 3 more people, and then we can get to the final question, I promise. Thank you very much for the feedback. That looks pretty good. I had no involvement in any of those things, so that's good to hear. Well done, David and Shabaz. And the Meetup. Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Final question. Which of these is not a capability of FSLogix in WVD? Profile containerization, application whitelisting, Office containerization, application masking, or Java version control? Ooh, it was app whitelisting. And I'm happy to be proven wrong if it's not. I got that from the docs site and Shabaz's presentation, which we did stick in there because this question was there. So let's see what that's done to the results. Yeah, the 2 that got it right jumped up. Alkamar is the winner, and I hope it's shown me the 2nd place, which looks like Mike Salmons. So if you can reach out on the chat, that would be really good, and we can give you your prize. But otherwise, thank you very much for taking part. I do have one final slide to show. Bear with me, didn't quite rehearse that, which is the next meetup. So June the 8th, 2nd Tuesday of the month, 6:30 in the UK, we have Paul Winstanley, who's a 4-time Enterprise Vulnerability MVP, talking about Cloud Attach. And yeah, he's hoping to get everything ready for that date. We put him on the spot to get him ready for that date, but he's really looking forward to presenting that. And we'll have a 2nd session as well by then as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. Any questions or feedback? Silence, but
Just something to me. Thanks very much, David and Shabaz. Thanks very much for taking part and providing the content today. Very good, interactive. So thanks again.
yeah, it's a shame that David didn't quite win. Have you not done IT before, David? It's 11th is out of 13. Were you doing something else? Never mind. But, well,
thanks.
you know, try next time. Yeah, pop along next time and see if you can improve. Yeah, it's all about trying.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks for joining. Cheers.
Yeah,
I'll see you
thanks,
next month. You drop that screen, Ali. See some faces. Go.
Are we seeing who can drop off last?
Yeah. That was good. Thank you, David. That was really good. I mean, I had no idea what you were going to show. Really, I've seen the thing, but you know that was really interactive. So I was really happy with how that came out. Way more questions than I could have thought of my own. You know, just making me think about doing caching of all this kind of stuff. How would it work in a large scale environment? Because I've only thought about it in my lab, so I could do a video for you.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, test it. Let me know. I'm actually enjoying all the little hidden functions in OSD that nobody has even looked at yet because there's too many of them. But like copying WinPE, I mean WinRE, I mean that was pretty cool working on that one.
So obviously you put that in there because you needed it. So what exactly did you need that for?
For wireless, it needs Windows recovery environment because there's one package that is in WinRE that is not in WinPE, and that is the wireless package.
Nice.
I don't know why I'm looking in this computer. I think I can just move this to this monitor. There. I feel like I'm looking sideways, you know.
Yeah, that's your best side. I like that one. That's good. Now that makes sense. I mean,
monitors, man. But yeah, so WinRE has a wireless package that Microsoft put in years and years ago, and we're just kind of using that because without it, there's no wireless support by default in WinPE.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you've taken a problem and then thought out literally outside the Wim or outside the box and just grabbed it from somewhere else and put it in. So that's yeah. I couldn't do that. I'm not an engineer. So yeah, I'm a user with good Googling skills.
Got too much free time.
Yeah, maybe. That was good. And then the WVD session was good from Shabaz. I mean, that's
yeah. I've added him. Following him on Twitter now. He is good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I have not played around with WVD. I plan on it. I didn't even know what FS Logics was until a couple months ago. So this is very timely.
Yeah, I mean the whole WVD itself was timely, as I mentioned. For the everyone had to work from home, and then WVD was just sitting there waiting for people to go. Oh, I can just use this. I'll use this. It's there. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Hello. One of my coworkers is just he's a specialist with Citrix virtual desktops, and when he looked into the community and the feedback and all the stuff that is there for optimizing FS Logics, he was down to a log-on time about 15 seconds. At the same customer, without the same customer environment, without FS Logic, was 1 minute 30.
Wow.
Just amazing.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
And this is not even cloud, but basically it's just amazing. This was really one of the best buys of Microsoft in the recent years, in my opinion.
Yeah. The user experience side of virtualized environment has always been the thing that everyone hates Citrix. Every user hates Citrix.
Yeah, if it does not trouble you, it's okay.
Yeah, but everyone needs it, but everyone hates it. So, and that's maybe it'll be if you can use FS Logics to make the user experience better, maybe they'll stop hating Citrix.
Yeah.
I hate Citrix.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not a big fan either, but I helped a lot to make it more user-friendly with the team. And basically, my approach is that I brought into the company, to be honest, is that we try to, first of all, stop all the parenting of the user, that they can basically don't do anything on the desktop and stuff. It's very limiting. And even sometimes giving you nuts as an admin if you try to troubleshoot because everything is locked up. And we also tried the new approach that the GPOs for the clients and Citrix are basically the same and are now inherited. So before it was just Citrix was an ivory tower. So it was completely a different world, and we skipped that and said, okay, it's not longer appropriate because the server OS basically like a client OS, very similar, and we can get this together and have people really a similar experience on the Citrix desktop on server like it is on the Windows desktop is pretty much the same. We even tried to roam the Google Chrome cache and stuff and the Google Chrome profile. So user does not really bother if it's using Chrome on Citrix or user using the Chrome on the desktop. Yeah, it was not easy, but with FS Logic and stuff, it's even more possible.
So it works. You can roam.
Yes,
physical and...
yes, with some caveats, because you cannot open it from two ends at a time. So you have to make something like preventions that user is using a container in Citrix VAD and on the same time using it on this client. It's not working. It doesn't work.
How do you attach it to a physical device? Am I going crazy?
Basically, this whole stuff is just a VHC, like the one showed on Windows Virtual Desktop. All the containers are basically nothing but VHDX files.
Ah, clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and if you think about this, if you think about storage spaces, for example, it's basically also nothing else but VHDX files that are not visible for you, but it's the same technology. Also, when you have Citrix provisioning, the BVS files are also only container files. They are not named VHDX, but it's the same technology.
Yeah.
And so on. Or for example, Macrim, when it does the backups, it's also in container, and they all using the same stuff. So
no,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I'd never thought of FS Logics outside of WVD, so interesting. That is interesting. Good, so we've still got quite a few people on. David, you mentioned who's going to be the last to drop off. I think we might have some competition here, to be honest. Thanks for everyone who's hanging around. This in the schedule, to be fair, this is mentioned as the networking section. So thanks, Carl, for sticking around and giving some insight there.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
That's all right. Carl, did you come to the previous meetup last month, or was this the?
This is my first one, actually. Yeah, I think I just catched it up because Simon retweeted it. So thanks.
Fine. There you go. So it works.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. We did get quite a lot of friends from, well, you know, I assume around your area. David, did you get many faces that you recognise from? Maybe not physically recognized, but you know, from your social sort of circles.
Yeah, you know, there were a couple on here. You know, Mike Salmons. He's been helping out, doing a lot of testing with OSD.
Yes, I should say hello.
Michael.
How's it going?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's a lot of people I recognize. So it was good to see him come.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking through the Patch Tuesday updates right now to see what hit. If I seem a little distracted, you know.
No, that's good. I mean, that's have they been released now? Have they? When did they come out?
Yeah, they should have come out 2.5 hours ago, but my WSUS has only picked up 12 updates since then. So they don't seem to have fully hit WSUS. They do seem to have hit Microsoft Update Catalog. So
yeah,
that's what I'm trying to look at right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look through the chat. There was someone, I think it might have been you, Mike, answering some questions with some authority in the chat. So that probably was you.
Yeah, Mike, you came in second place, right, on the quiz?
Oh yeah.
Oh, was that you? Brilliant. Cool. If you send over your email address in a private chat if you want, or on Twitter in a DM if you like, then I'll get you your prize. By default, it's an Amazon gift card, but you're welcome to request something less Amazon if you want.
No, that's awesome.
Buy online. Good.
Yeah. Don't spend it all at once, though, Michael.
Yeah, I'll try not to. I'll try not to.
No, and anyone any idea who was the winner? They haven't reached out yet.
Pardon?
Was it Carl?
Yeah, actually, this is my online nickname.
Very good. Okay, that's why you're sticking around. If you can send through your Twitter handle or whatever, just so I can reach out to you, and we'll get you those prizes. Thank you for taking part.
If I send you a message via Teams, is this okay for you?
Probably not. This is a lab Teams thing. We had to move off our usual place.
So how can I contact you, please?
Yeah. So it's Twitter handle is this.
Just put mine in the chat as well.
Thanks. I'll add you. No, this is not by far the first reason to stay here for the prize. It's awesome to learn so many things. I have a question to David. I follow you a longer time now. When you have to update the modules like OSD, ZOS, and so on, is this every time there is a patch day you have to adjust something in the module, because I cannot imagine what you have to do. Why there are so often some updates on these modules that also Donna is using in VimWedge.
Yeah, so Donna was so we're talking about OSD SUS module, which has the Patch Tuesday updates, and I guess that's why I'm kind of looking a little worried, because I'm only seeing, like I said, the 12 updates, and that's not right. So I'm curious as to why they're not all being put in WSUS. So I'm just wondering if something's going on, because I'm reading the logs. It seems like there's a lot of vulnerabilities this month that were released. But yeah, so what I do is I have a nice VM. And the only purpose of this VM, I fire it up whenever I need to generate new WSUS exports. So it's really not a lot of work. There's a PowerShell script that does all the work and converts it to XML, and that's it. I just kind of it supplies the meat, and I provide the sides and wrap it up. So it does take, I don't know, I probably have about 30 minutes of work going through and making sure there's no problems with some of the updates, making sure there's no duplicates. And the duplicates come in play because, for example, when Microsoft releases a KB, it doesn't always align to an update. It could be a bundle. And so they say, okay, this is your KB for this patch, but it's really actually 4 patches. That happens a lot with cumulative updates for .NET. There's like one for 3.5, one for 4x, 4.8, one for 4.7. But they might be under the same KB, but it's the patch itself that is a different KB. So I have to look at that and kind of, make sure that everything looks good. But, there's no real work.
I see. Thanks for sharing.
That's only once a month anyway.
Yeah, thankfully. So my last patch patch day was actually the last weekend with the customer having a lot of 2016 boxes, and it was horrific.
Yeah.
And we made agreements that I won't patch his stuff anymore if he doesn't upgrade to 2019.
That's harsh. 2016 isn't that old. I've got some customers on 2003.
Yeah.
Which obviously there's no patch problem there, but
yeah,
you don't get patches.
we started the first 2016 box on 10 a.m. and the last one was finished at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. And in this meantime, all the other servers were already long patched. So, oh dear, yeah. I mean, there is always something to do, but there is also better things to do, but to wait for circling balls.
Yeah.
And they cannot auto patch them. This is the problem. There are some. We made some advance that they make more auto patching now, but some boxes are no-go zones, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm avoiding patching.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Safest. Good. So I think we are well over time. So thank you for everyone for joining. The recording will go up into the Meetup. I'll send the link. It'll go onto our Cloud Management User Group YouTube channel, and you can catch up with anything you missed.
Dan, I'm going to check out your show on next Monday, right?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hit me up on
Do that.
Twitch. No problem.
Good. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
See you
thank
guys.
you. Thank you.
See you
Bye.
next month.
Cheers.
Will do.
Bye.